Worship Leaders Forum show, and with me here, I have three amazing guests who are just going to introduce themselves in a few minutes. So, are you a worship minister or are you around the worship ministry? Have a seat because we are going to have a conversation with you right about now. So today we are going to really tackle the problems that are facing the worship ministry at large, and we shall do the do's and don'ts. Everything shall be listed here. I'll be your host today. My name's Anne Mwende, and right about now, the lady is going to start us off. Kindly introduce yourself.
My name is Nancy Jacob, Redeemed Gospel Church, Imara Daima. I am a minister in the choir and in the intercessory department. Welcome.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Nancy. After her, we are going to have director. You can introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Louis Derrick from Destiny Life Church, Syokimau. Thank you.
Thank you, director. And last one, please.
Hello, my name is Maurice Chalo. I'm a music director, a vocal coach, and also a worship minister. I serve at River from the Temple Ministries in Kayole Junction. Thank you so much for hosting us.
You're welcome, you're welcome. So as you've heard, all of them are in the worship ministry in one way or another. So we definitely have the right people to do this with us. So just for starters, what do you understand by worship ministry in general?
Worship ministry is a very wide area in general.
Yeah.
It includes music. It includes even services.
Yeah.
So it's a wide range of activities that happen in a church.
Yeah.
For us to be included in a worship service, most at times we are serving in that ministry, and we all know that the worship ministry is a ministry that we are giving it direct to God.
Yeah.
So it includes and encompasses a lot of singing, a lot of even giving is a worship service. So there's a lot to do with the worship ministry.
Okay.
Yes.
Madam Nancy, what do you understand by worship ministry?
Worship ministry is a relationship between man and God.
Yeah.
It is what we do to appreciate the lives that God has given us. So whatever we do, whatever act we do,
Yeah.
in or outside the church, that is pleasing in the eyes of God, it's our worship.
Thank you. And director?
Yes, just the way they have said, maybe in addition, worship ministry, it's to me, I call it a service
Yeah.
to God and not to man, because the Bible says that we have been created to worship Him. And so when we are in the worship ministry, it's worship ministry. So we are just ministering to God, or we are serving God. And simply put, we are ministering to God.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So so what we've heard so far, it is just service and ministering unto God. And the thing that I want us to have, in the Kenyan churches, we have had a chance, to all of us minister here. I want us now to go deep down as we are doing this service, as we are doing this ministering unto God. What are some of the problems that we tend to face?
From my own view, there's a lot of challenges or problems that worship ministers are facing. Maybe I'd mention a few as we catch up on.
Okay.
Some churches don't really understand what worship ministry entails, what it requires.
Yeah.
So most churches think that the worship ministry is only singing. And when there's no singing in church, that day people did not worship. So you find that the requirement of the worship ministry in most churches is the musicality of the service. Yes, so I'd really settle for that for now, is I also give my friends time, because there's a lot about the challenges, because they also the worshiper can also be challenged. The people being led into the worship session can also be challenged.
Okay.
So I'd also give my friends time to give their mind about the same.
Yeah. Director,
Yes.
give us some of the problems that worship ministry faces.
Okay. I think I have a few, but I can categorize them into one and say we lack patience.
Yeah.
Let me put it that patience in terms spiritual patience and also physical patience. And that's why you find ourselves rushing so fast to try and assume that if I produce a song, if I go sing, if I get a position in this church, my life will be okay.
Yeah.
But you fail to realize the minute you come into the worship ministry,
Yeah.
it's war you are declaring against another kingdom,
Yeah.
because you are standing at the front line to defend God. And so once you come in and then keep manie, what happens is we get discouraged and then we walk away.
Yeah.
Or we now we call it freelancing
Yeah.
in the worship ministry. So we start moving from one church to another, hoping and trusting that probably the grass is greener on the other side. But the problem is not this church or the other church. The problem is we are not patient enough to settle in one place. One thing I know about the ministry of worship and what he has just said,
Yeah.
it's not just about singing, because worship is not music. And so what happens is, unless God has ordered you to move, you stay
Yeah.
until he commands you to do, because he's the one who orders where you go, what you do, and how you do it, because it's not about you, it's about him. So when we lack patience, we end up trying to fix God or try to help God help us.
Yeah.
Yet he's the one who has called us, and he knows exactly what is required of us. He can easily direct us to where we want. He knows what we want, when we want, and how we want it. All he wants is let us worship him where he has commanded us to be, or how he has commanded us to be. So I can say lack of patience has caused us to really end up actually even missing the line, going astray. So we start following material things, we start following gains. You know, we just wake up and say, hi, subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So we think the more followers we have, the more tutakuwa make it. But really, to me, for a status, I can say that is a problem.
All right. I hope you're taking notes. So number one, worship is not just about singing. And number two, a lack of patience. Most of us, I think many ministers have turned into church hoppers. You know, you're hopping from one church to another. You're not settling. You have to like settle down and just do what God called you. Yeah, Madam Nancy, what are some of the problems in the worship ministry?
I think one of the greatest problem I've seen in the worship ministry is people getting into the ministry without the knowledge of what they are doing,
Yeah.
and what they are supposed to do and who they are.
Yeah.
Another thing that I've seen causing a great problem in the worship ministry is the way we live,
Yeah.
because our lifestyle has a very great impact on our worship life.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a time we were being taught in the music academy that your lifestyle helps so much in lighting the fire on the altar. So our lifestyle matters a lot. If we don't live right, definitely our worship life is going to be affected.
Yeah.
So I think the greatest problem we have is people getting into the ministry without understanding of who they are and what they are supposed to be doing as a worship minister.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your lifestyle, how you live outside church, definitely denotes how you're going even to serve while you're in church. So we have patience and we have how you live outside church. And I want us to now, break it down. You have entered as a worship minister in this ministry. You didn't have the knowledge before of what you're supposed to do, and you come in, things are just not going how you think they were supposed to go. You have entered the church, you had your own expectations, maybe things just are happening up and down. How do you go about it?
I think from what my friends have said, there's one basic thing that we neglect when it comes to the worship ministry. From the points they have given, it is really evident that the worship ministry encompasses the spiritual and the musical part of it.
Yeah.
So I'd say my friend Nancy said that some people come into the worship ministry without the knowledge of what they are doing. And that made me think back. When we speak about the worship ministry in Kenya, we have really categorized it to be about musicality.
Yeah.
If you can sing well, then you are welcomed pretty in every worship service because you can sing well. But when we come to understanding what worship is, it is really service to the only one true God. So you cannot worship a person that you do not know. You cannot worship a person that you do not have a relationship with.
Yeah.
So I'd say for me, for worship ministers, they need first to understand the person that they are serving.
Yeah.
When you understand the person that you're serving, now you understand the requirements that that person needs for you to be called a musical minister in the worship ministry. So I'd say when a minister comes, Director Derek told us about those people who are hopping from one church to the other, which is very much evident in a lot of churches.
Yeah.
Because as much as we are ministering, people are looking for greener pastures. And they have leaned into the worship ministry, like they are using their skills, so they are using that as the terminologies of I'm serving, I'm giving out my services, you need to pay me back. And they actually quoting scriptures, what the Levites were doing. That the scriptures say that the Levites should eat on the altar.
Yeah.
And so when the worship minister comes into a church and they find a lot of ups and downs, most of us do not know how to handle them because we do not handle these things from the scripture. We handle them from our own knowledge and our own expectations from maybe the churches that we are serving in. So Brother Derek spoke about patience.
Yeah.
You cannot have patience if you do not know who you are serving.
Yeah.
So I'd say also for a worship minister, it is very key to be a born again, a saved, a person who understands what salvation is. Because if you understand what salvation is, now you'll understand the requirements of the ministry that you are getting into.
Okay. So Minister Morris is emphasizing, first of all, know who you are serving. And again, the second time, know the requirements that you needed as you serve. Nancy, I've come in as a worship minister in church. I have children. I've left my work maybe, to give God the best. But I come here, things are not going the way I expected. How do you go about it?
First, the fact that you have left some of your issues, maybe your family, your children, and have come to serve, that shows that you have that love for God.
Yeah.
But now, the giant in the house is here. What is your relationship with this God that you have come to serve? The other day I was praying and I was telling God, I do not want to only be found in your house or on the altar. I want to be found in your presence.
Yeah.
So, when you come into worship, are you in the presence of God or you are just at the altar?
Okay.
You can be at the altar. You can sing very well. You can worship very well. But are you in the presence of God? Because I think some of the worship ministers we have in the Kenya churches, yes, they are in the ministry. They are on the altar serving, but they are doing it to be recognized. They are doing it for faith. It is not for God. So that person can sing so perfectly. They can lead in worship, and you feel, yes, the presence of God is here. But what is your relationship with that God? Because it will be it will be too bad for you if you will leave your job, leave your children, leave your business, leave everything out there, come to worship, yet you do not have a relationship with this God. You do not have that relationship with God that makes him accept your worship. The other day, Director Luis was asking us, you are singing very well as a worship minister, as a worship minister, but does God know your voice?
Yeah.
When God is on the throne and the angels are ministering and they are like, there is this, Nancy is worshiping. And have you heard that song? It's full of your praises. And then God will be like, who is that? Who is Nancy? Does God know you? Does he know your voice? That is a very profound question that you should ask you before you get to the pulpit and worship.
Yeah. Director,
Yes.
as a worship minister, I've come in and there are things that I'm supposed to know and I have my own life. Where do we start?
Just to add to what they are saying,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to read a verse.
Okay.
The book of Matthew 16:24. I love the Amplified Version. This is what it says. Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone wishes to follow, wishes to follow me. I was looking at a certain meme. The guy was really emphasizing on these words. The power belongs to the people and shall. The may part. So on the verse, they says, if anyone wishes, so it's a willing thing,
Yeah.
wishes to follow me as my disciple, he must deny himself, meaning he must set aside self-interest, okay, and take up his cross and express a willingness to endure whatever may come, okay, and follow me, believe in me, conform to my example in living and, if need be, suffering or perhaps dying because of faith in me. Okay? So if anyone wishes. So for this ministry, when you come in and you're saying that things are not working the way you are expecting, so we are not coming, this ministry is not about your expectation. It's about what Jesus is expecting. He's saying, if you wish to follow me, my expectations are simple. Deny yourself. Let down self-interest. When we stand on the pulpit and say, we are casting our crowns, what are we really saying? You get? If anyone wishes to become, to be a disciple. To be a disciple meaning you are actually executing the kingdom of God on his behalf, meaning you are worshiping God. And so therefore, you have to deny, you have to let go of self. And the other thing is saying, take up your cross. Yeah, be willing to follow me and do anything, whatever may come. You have to be ready for it. Waswahili wanasema ukiyavulia nguo utayaoga, si ndio?
Yeah.
So it means when trouble comes, don't say this is not what I was expecting. What were you expecting? Because the Bible says, actually, you can actually die. You will suffer. Because if you want to live like Jesus, what did Jesus do? He was rejected, he was beaten, he was abused, he was falsely accused. He lacked a place to stay. Sometimes he could run away from people. And at the end of the day, he died. So then, if you are choosing to come to this side of the kingdom and you are expecting good life, then you are in the wrong kingdom. The kingdom haina good life. Kama life, if life was good, then we wouldn't be living by faith. Because faith, the definition of faith is there. So what I'm saying is, when you come, put away your expectations.
Yeah.
Because it's not about you, it's about the kingdom. It's about the expectation, because it's God who sets the standard. Worship is his food. So he's the one who dictates what is needed and how is our role in the worship ministry is to just respond, not to set demands.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So when you're coming in, kindly let go of your expectations. The things that you have in your mind, uta heartbreak you vibaya sana. So just let go of the expectations. And now I want us to look it from a point of the pastors. Now, pastors, most of them, there's those who open up doors for worship ministers, and some of them, have gone to an extent of, if they are to invite ministers around, they have been hurt before. Now, as a pastor, what do you think the challenges they have with the worship ministers? Nancy, you can start us off.
The problem I have seen with between pastors and worship ministers is pride.
Okay.
There are pastors that feel, I have given you a pulpit. You are now being known. You are becoming a celeb now.
Yeah.
So they feel that you should worship them. There are also worship ministers who are so proud to a point that they feel like whenever they are ministering, they are doing it for the pastor. The pastor is benefiting. So they feel like, why it not for me? This team or this church could not be here. So I tend to think the pastors are being hurt more by the worship ministers, more than the worship ministers being hurt by the pastors, because they open doors for different people. Someone is a worship minister, they come, they sing well, you feel, this is a son or this is a daughter in the kingdom. You open doors for them, but they end up messing up everything. Others, we have witnessed others even walking out of the church and going even with some congregants and opening their own churches. So I think the biggest problem we are facing right now is pride. It is a pride. Worship ministers, we tend to have a lot of pride. We tend to have a lot of pride, and we tend to feel like, I can sing, I have the skill, there's nothing you can tell me. So there's a time even you'll find that worship ministers are on the altar ministering, but immediately after the worship session, you will look for them where they sit and you will find none. You will start seeing them again when they are needed at the altar. Maybe they are just outside, just doing their own things. So we have a lot of pride, and we feel like this is the only thing that has brought us to the church, singing. We have no business listening to the word. We have no business praying. We have no business doing anything else in the church apart from singing. Yeah.
Okay. From the pastor's side, actually, I can relate. There's a pastor, I don't want to quote, but when he does give platforms to many people, but he likes saying, akikohoa unaitika. So whichever way that he wants, you'll just have to go that way. Any other challenge that the pastors and the worship ministers are facing?
As for me, I'd say there are two problems. And I'd refer them to two groups of worship ministers. We have the worship ministers who only minister in the local church. They don't have any invitations from outside. So there are those worship ministers who serve just in that church. Then there are the worship ministers that the pastors bring in to serve. So I'd say the way Minister Nancy said, most of the times it's pride. And there's a level of elevation that God gives you that you start forgetting the assignment that you have as a worship minister. So I'd look it in a way that the conflict between pastors and worship ministers is their expectations. Because if you've welcomed me to minister into a church, I think the main goal, the main reason you welcomed me is for the glory of God to be seen, not for me to serve you. And the same way goes to the worship ministers. You should understand that the reason you are called in this platform is for you to evangelize through your ministry, not for you to be seen, not for you to sell your trademark, not for you to market your own brand. Like our director said, finya hiyo like, subscribe, utanipata YouTube, and yet you are on a foreign altar and you're already introducing your YouTube channels. So I think the problem between these two parties is the expectations. If the expectation is not God, then there will always be conflicts between the two parts. I'd also say something about the money, the remunerations. I've been with very renowned music ministers in Kenya, and we have ministered with them. Then the aftermath is they are even exchanging very abusive words with the pastors. Why? Because we had agreed my remuneration is 30,000, but now I'm done ministering and you're giving me 25,000. And I'm telling you, sinibebe ufala bwana. Sijaokoka ujinga. You see? So unapata you get. And I've seen a lot of heated exchange of messages and you find that that person came to the altar as business, not God.
Yeah.
And so I'd say those two things, pride and then the financial part of it.
Okay. So my producer is telling me that we are going to take a short break. Money is very broad, and as we come back, director is going to take us through the money part and also the expectations that we have. We'll be right back.
KATV, Understanding the Mind of God.
Marriage is a scam. And so you've heard from your friends, from your church members, from the community around you. At a time when single parenthood is being celebrated, a time when divorce has become a conversation, even in the church today, something that was not seen in the years before. At a time when economic status of people has changed and others can do without the other. We are asking these questions. Where are the champions of marriage? How do we handle issues in marriage? Is there a way to do a conflict resolution in marriage? Can we have success and a celebrated marriage in our time? Is joy still part of marriage? Ama tunavumiliana? It is because of these questions that we are here and ready to tackle them during this time. Every Thursday at KATV with me, Simon, we are here to look at those issues and to answer and to look at the elephant in the room. Does marriage still work? See you there.
KATV, Understanding the Mind of God.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. It's getting hotter in here. And before we left, Maurice had tackled the issue of money. And you know, people like quoting the verse that says, money answereth all things. And some tend to use it in the wrong way. I want the director to take us through the money part and we'll just close on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the subject of money is wide. So it's one of the issues that is causing a lot of disunity, disintegration in the worship ministry, actually.
Yeah.
If you find most worship leaders and instrumentalists ask them, why did you leave the church? 70% of the cost is money element. And for me, I'll say this. The worship team like quoting a lot this verse that says, you know, we are the Levites, so we have to eat off of the Levites. Well, I will agree and disagree on two bases. As true as the scripture is, but before the Levites ate of the spoils of what the share of the Levites, there were conditions to it. There's a lifestyle that Levites were conditioned to live, number one. Number two, there were consequences that will befall them if they go against that kind of a lifestyle. So when a worship leader tells you that I'm a Levite and I'm entitled to this, the question is, before the reward, are you living as per that line? Because we can't claim the reward of the Levites, yet we neglect also to read the verse that actually gives the conditions and the instructions of the Levites. So if we are living as per the instruction of the Levites, then we are entitled to the reward. But we want the reward, but we don't want the process. Number two, when it comes to the money element, one thing I want to know, to tell ministers, and this is my personal opinion, church is not an employment avenue or an employment body. We come to church to serve. Now, whatever the church will do to the worship ministers or the church workers that are there is according to the ability or the financial ability of that church. If the church is not in a position to give you, if I was serving in another church and they were giving me 30,000, I'm moving to another church. Am I going there to be employed? I'm going there to serve. And if I'm going there, what is the financial level of that church? What is the expectation of that church? What are the priorities of that church? Because there are churches, their priority is not a professional music director or a professional singer. Them, that is not their priority. They rather pay a security guy more than the worship leader because they're looking at the priority. So again, before you go and demand and say, I have to be paid, I'm a professional, I'll appreciate that you have gone to school, you have learned professionally. If the church will call you to come and serve professionally, there is a contract they'll have with you.
Definitely.
And it's you to sign if you agree or not. And you'll be binded within the contract. So then you become an employee of the church at that very moment, and you'll be bound within the church contract. If not, they're telling you, come help us with the ministry, and we will see what we can do. Have a gentleman's understanding and a gentleman's agreement that, if I'm going to be here in the morning, lunchtime, and evening, then at least I will be leaving my work, so I need an appreciation. So the problem is our expectation when it comes to finances is a little bit over-exaggerated. We want to, let me say we have conformed to the patterns of how the world pay people and how the church pay people. I will say this with all honor and all respect to the worship leaders. It's okay when it comes to payment, it's an arrangement of the church and the person. But a man will pay you, but God rewards. Men pay, God rewards. So I might lose on the man's payment, but I gain on God's reward. Or I might lose on God's reward and get man's payment. Which is better when it comes to that? There are people who have served in church without pay, but if you look at their life, is moving from one level to another, from one level to another. Let me be honest with this one. Look at everybody that is subject to church payment. I want you to categorically look at their lifestyle. That money doesn't help a lot. It doesn't. If you ask them on Sunday, on Monday, jana walikuwa church, ask them on Monday, what have you done with your money? They won't tell you.
They can't give an
don't know where
account.
that money goes. Do you know who brings that money in the house of the Lord? People were having issues. Someone came and gave pastor, please pray for me. My mama is having cancer. They are coming in to give. Some are coming in with thanksgiving and all this. So when they're having all these issues brought together, pastor is praying. And it is from this money that they will give these people.
Definitely.
They don't know where this money has come from hard-earned labor, from tears, from everything. And even you getting that money, the sacrifice that is coming out of it. Now, when you're receiving it without a heart of gratitude, thinking you are entitled to it, trust you me, there is how something will just shift from one position to like the story of Naaman. There will be something that will shift. Yes, you'll get that money, but there's nothing, and there's not much blessing that will be visible in your life. So my challenge to worship leaders, let's go for God's reward and not man's pay.
Definitely.
Okay? So expectations that when it comes to finances, let us understand that in the house of the Lord, the Bible says, bring food into the house of the Lord. It's not about coming to take. So when we bring, now, those who have been professionally equipped, I always challenge them and tell them like this. Have a contract, yes, with the church, if they're in need of you. But position yourself that even if you are being paid for that, at the back of your mind, you're not doing a job. You're doing a ministry. At the back of your mind, know that I am serving. Even if I'm being paid out of this, I am serving. Ndio ile siku yenye hata do haitakuwa, hautabeba keyboard uende nayo. Juu hujalipwa. You will still serve. Because you understand what is going on. Yes.
About what Derek is saying, and I think it is also affecting the pastors. Because they are bringing in worship leaders, and most pastors, just to say, they don't have a clear understanding of the music ministry. Most pastors don't know how even to sing. So this person is coming to ask for money, and they themselves are singing off key, and they are playing the wrong things. So as much as you're asking for money, have you had any input to the skill that you are selling to the church? Because if you're asking for the money in the way Brother Derek is saying, it's like you're selling your gift to the church. So have you had any input to that gift? And what he said, the fact that you're being given money does not make you an employer. You're still a servant.
Yeah.
If there's a church kesha, you're supposed to be there. If there are fellowships, a lot of singers and music players, they don't attend fellowships. If midweek services, they don't come. They only come on Sunday because they know if they miss Sunday, then that money is being reducted from their salary. Yeah. So I would also urge the pastors, if they do not know about the musicality of the worship team, they should bring somebody in who knows that if Brother Derek is asking for 5,000 in a service, how is the quality of the service that he's giving? Kuna input gani? Because mtu atatoka tu kwa praise team, because this thing about remuneration was not there. Imeanza tu juzi. So if Nancy is my friend and nasikia Nancy analipwa, hata mimi nitajoin praise team and I'll ask for money. So it is an area that should be very inafaa kuwa imefungwa sana. You don't just access the financial part of the music ministry just because you're in the music ministry.
And you know the minute you accept to take the contracts and they are paying you, definitely the pastor has a right to control you like a remote, because they're paying you, so you have to give back.
You have to be subject to them
You
as
have
an
to. Akikoho unaitika, definitely.
Yes, it's a service, and most of us even lie because we call them gigs.
Yeah.
You know, we have a kesha on Friday, but hiyo siku ya Friday you have a gig ya 5,000. Ambia pasi aki, I will not make to come to the kesha. And most of our pastors are very good. They won't tell you don't go. You'll still go. The reason why Brother Derek is saying this money does not help these guys. They are always broke. Because they are being paid, but they do not earn that money the right way.
Yeah.
Yes.
And something else, just to put a point across before it goes, I'm looking at it again from another angle of pastors. What you have just said on, you are giving your service to the church and it needs to be quality. And this service, pastors only rate these people from the skill point of view. You will realize there are these guys who come to the church, but they mess up the whole church.
Yeah.
You find worship team ilikuwa too stable vizuri. But the minute they stepped in, things just went all over the place.
Yeah.
If he's not messing up with all the girls in the church or the women, you know, seducing even pastors' wives,
Funny behaviors.
you wonder what's going on. Or they are borrowing almost everybody in church. Wanakopa pesa kwa kila mtu kwa kanisa. They're just funny, weird behavior. Their influence is just negative. Or they just make the whole team begin puffing up with pride. They can no longer listen to the pastor and all this. So my challenge to pastors is this one. These people are not coming to serve you. They are coming to serve God. So let the standards of God be a priority more than your personal standard.
Sure.
Yes, as a pastor, you may want quality, you may want excellence, but it is not you who is actually dictating this worship service. It's God. You are a custodian. So then, let God take dominance in even deciding on, yes, you are skilled, unafunga ni sawa. Lakini let us look at your spiritual side of it. Which testimony do you carry? Where are you coming from? Unajua, I've seen pastors texting even online on WhatsApp. Can I get a drama tomorrow morning? So you wonder, okay, you are bringing this guy, he will do quality, atakuchezea mpaka watu wainue mkono waseme mse ako sawa. But at what cost?
It could be at the cost of the whole church. Yeah, maybe the drama, maybe last night alikuwa anapiga drum somewhere kwa Mogidi. And now this morning he's playing the drums on the altar.
We have become too familiar with the altar.
Yeah, we have become too familiar with the altar. So it could end up messing up the whole church.
And there are some pastors, they go for them because wameita the ministers and the ministers wako na maringo. So they are okay taking our club, service iendelee tu.
I would rather the drum isichezwe Instead of kuchezwa na mtu hatujui, let it remain that way.
Okay.
There is a time we didn't have these instruments in
Yeah,
the churches and
and
we
we
used
used
to praise God.
Even-
So tukikosa keyboardist mwenye tunajua kwa church,
Actually,
wacha keyboard
Jesus-
ikae.
Jesus
We'll
had no
clap our
keyboardist.
hands. Yeah.
Yesu hakuwa na keyboard.
Yes, of course.
Yesu wako na keyboardist.
But he commanded
But again-
crowds.
Yeah.
It comes back to the point of prayer. Because if a team, and now the worship team,
Yeah.
one of the other challenges probably has been said or not, the biggest problem is we are having worship team that are not prayerful, they're not spiritual, they can't discern anything. Wako tu, we bora tuimbe Sunday na tuende home. So even if they bring a drummer who is a drunkard or someone
They
with a
won't
strange
notice.
spirit,
And
they
the
won't even
team is
notice.
spiritually blind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are dead. They are just there to sing. And you find the church is not moving, the intercessors are trying, the pastor is really coming with some very hot messages, but nothing is moving. So he sits down and start evaluating. What is the problem?
What is happening
But the
here?
problem is with these guys, because you're bringing in this. Me, I believe if the team is powerful, spiritually they are alert. Even if they bring a devil's agent, he will not change the team because he will be the one to be changed. But if the team is dead, whether this guy comes, he will take others to recruit them, and they come back here,
He'll hold-
and nobody will.
We'll hold the whole church captive.
It really matters because I also think in the supernatural or spiritual hierarchy in the church, it's from the pastoral then
Yeah.
to the ministers, to the praise team ministers. So they really hold a very key part in worship. So what we would say, money is not bad. Actually, the Bible does not say money is bad.
It is the love
It's-
of money.
It is the love of
The
money.
love of
That
money.
is 1 Timothy 6:10.
Yeah.
So having money is okay, but make sure you earn it the right way.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the same way life and death has been placed in your hand, you choose right. I also feel, there's the God's reward and there's the payment. You as a worship minister, kindly choose right. And now I want us to shift kidogo. Now we have these pastors who are all rounded. If it is intercessory, they are there, they can pray asubuhi hadi jioni. If it is singing, they can still sing. If it is preaching, they can still preach. Now, because they are in our team as a minister, they come. Tukieka uniform, they might wear or not, they become very hostile. And if we have practices, they are busy reading for the
Is
word.
the papa.
How do, how do you go about them?
Oh, the pastor, we love you with the love of God.
Yeah.
Sure.
If you as a pastor have decided to be part of the team, you want to be in the worship team, you want to lead worship, be committed to the team. Come for practice. If there is a uniform, put on the uniform. If there is anything the team is doing, be part of the team so that you can move in the same spirit. Not only the pastors, but also leaders in the church. We have deacons wives. They want to be in the team, but they do not want to be committed to the team.
Yeah.
You will never find them in the meetings. If we say that today we have a praise and worship team meeting, or we have a choir meeting, you will never find them in that meeting, but they are part of the team. Yeah, they have all the uniforms, but they will never wear them when you are wearing them.
Yeah.
They will be wearing them on their convenient time. They will not be found for in the practices, but asubuhi mkianza service wako pale wakiwaimbia off key. Kindly, let's be committed to the team. Let's
You are in
respect
trouble.
our fellow
Okay.
team members. Let's respect the team.
Yeah.
Na kitu ingine, let's have some discipline in the ministry. If you know that you are not coming for practice, please peana apology mapema. Usitupe apology 10 minutes tu.
Alright.
Hata kuna mwingine atapeana apology kama mmeshatoka practice.
Yeah.
Ati I'm sorry I was stuck in the jam, like you had your phone. Ama wengine wanatuma apology kwa WhatsApp group. There is a time director was teaching us about discipline and ministry ethics, and he was like, uko kwa job yenyu siku yenye umeamka ukiwa mgonjwa, or you have an emergency and you are not going to work, do you text your boss hapo kwa WhatsApp group ya kampuni ati excuse me boss, for the next 3 days I will not come to work? Unaenda unamtafuta kwa ofisi yake, unamwomba ruhusa vizuri na heshima. But when it comes to the house of God, we have become so familiar with the house
Very
of God.
familiar.
Tunatuma tu apology zetu kwa wall, and then it encourages others. Nasi ametuma apology, hata mimi wacha nitume yangu. hata mimi, and then you find like 10 apologies for WhatsApp group. So me, like for me, I serve in the choir,
Yeah.
and we stopped that narrative of sending apology for group. So there's a time we used to send, then ikafika mahali we said no, this has to stop. If you're not coming, call the person who is in charge of discipline in the team, tell them why you are not coming. But hapa kwa wall usitutumie apology, ukituma hatujaiona, so that at least we can have some discipline. There is another discipline that we lack so much as worshipers or as worship ministers. Tunaweka mazoea kwa nyumba ya Mungu. You find that weekdays tunaamka 4:30 kuenda job, but on Sunday I want to come to church at 11 and I'm coming to serve at the altar. Then I'm like, this person works. I'm very sure hakuna kampuni watu wanaendanga saa 5 ya mchana. And then when you ask them, and especially ladies, they start giving you excuse, unajua niko na watoto wadogo. Like, yo, these children go to school. I'm sure they don't go to school at 11. So let us train ourselves to just respect the house of God the way we respect our jobs and our earthly bosses.
Right.
Yeah.
Respect. Hosea 6:10 says that my people are perishing for the lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think we have a lot of arrogance. You know, there's a difference between ignorance and arrogance. Ignorance is the lack of knowledge. But arrogance is you have the knowledge, but you're choosing.
You choose not to.
Because of your pride, you're choosing not to do it.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that brings the presence of God in a worship service is the unity in people and also the church. The unity between the praise team and the church. Most of the times, if the singers who are singing here are not in sync with the church, kuna uwezekano sana they won't be flow, because we need to be united in worship. The Bible says in the Old Testament that time that when they were all in
one accord.
Yes, one accord. That means every detail in the worship service matters. If Nancy is angry because Brother Derek did not put on the uniform, the chances are that worship will be a little bit
The
not
service
there.
will be dry.
Yeah. Because so now the same way a pastor is expecting me to respect the part of tithing of which I'm not giving to him, I'm giving to God.
Yeah.
But it is their mandate to input that knowledge into us. So when you don't give your tithe, they get angry. Yeah. So what we are lacking is that ministry ethics. You need to understand that the department you're in has its own requirements. As apart from you being the overseer of the whole vision of the church, there are other departments in the church. The same way, if you're a pastor, you cannot go to the intercessors and decide if they are fasting or eating. You need to be in unison. So you need to respect each and every part of the ministry that you oversee.
Yeah.
So if it comes to the music ministry, this is what is happening. Obedience is better than,
Sacrifice.
and half obedience is like no obedience at all.
Yeah.
So and the Bible says what you plant is what you so kama nikikwambia kitu kama my pastor, you cannot do it in my music part, then probably God will repay you in another part of it. So sisi kama music ministers, we are doing our own part. Yes.
Yeah.
We are doing our own part. So that also determines the level of pastoral leadership you have. If your pastoral leadership cannot be advised, not rebuked, advised, like pastor, kwa prako tunakuja saa fulani, tunavaa hivi. If you feel you cannot be committed to all these departments, please drop them instead of you becoming kikwazo every now and then. When it comes to music culture and ethics and the music ministry at large, I'm a music director, and I'm directing my pastor in the team, right? So I expect him to adhere to my directing because that is my area.
Yeah.
I have
It is
power
your office.
there.
It is
Yeah.
your office. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, director, we have just 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. Me, I'll say this just to add to what they are saying. The biggest problem we are experiencing in the church is communication. It comes back to communication.
Yeah.
My personal advice is senior pastor, I don't think he needs to be in the worship team. He needs to do what we call oversight
Yeah.
through the worship leader.
Mm.
Okay? But there are these other people that are in the worship team.
Yeah.
And it begins with the pastor's wife, pastor's kids, assistant pastors,
Yeah.
pastor or evangelism.
Mhm.
And you find most of the time they don't attend the ministry practices, the ministry sessions. You find most of the time they are not even following the rules and everything that is there.
Sure.
Most of the time, they don't even respect the leadership in the place.
Mhm.
I always ask myself like this: the pastor, in all his wisdom and understanding, chose a leader in the team. You, the pastor's family, you disregard the leader.
Mhm.
What you're doing actually is not a disgrace to this leader, it's the disgrace to the wisdom of the pastor, because you
Choose a
feel
leader.
he made a mistake appointing this person. So when you disrespect it, you are actually disrespecting the pastor in absentia, because you feel like what he made, what the decision he made was
A
wrong,
mistake.
was a mistake. So what I will say is this: when people are coming in, please come join, be part of the team. If you're not in the leadership as a pastor's family or the leadership of the church or a leader in a different department, when you come to the worship team, there is a leader appointed in this place.
Sure.
Let's give honor where
Yeah.
honor is due,
Definitely.
so that we can have harmony among ourselves. Because when you're coming in, it's not about your title. Do you know I'm a leader of intercessory? No, we understand you're a leader of intercessory, but you are a member of the worship team. When it comes here, yes, you're a pastor's wife, but you're a member of a team. So be a member, show good example that we may follow.
Be a
all
team
of us.
player.
Be a team player.
Yeah.
And hii story ya pastors, allow me to use this. The pastor's wife kukuanga na microphone hapa
Yeah.
mahali wanakaa. kuna wakatabia.
Yes.
And then when people are singing up there, they will come with their own microphone and they start singing from here, and they're singing off key, and their mic is the loudest. And you wonder now, do I switch off mic ya mama, mchungaji, or what do I do?
That can land you into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, so just be part of the team. It will really, because there are people who are going to get offended up there, and then overall it's the service that you are messing up.
Sure.
So just if you want to be in the music ministry, just join in, be part of the team, and let us flow together. Okay, for the uniform, let me defend pastor's wife for a bit on the part of the uniform. You may not expect them to really wear the uniform throughout, because maybe that day she wants just to match with her man,
Yeah, sure.
or they are going for a child dedication after that, or they've been invited somewhere after the service, so she just wants to fit in the attire of the day. Or hiyo uniform mevaa hiyo siku, she feels uncomfortable in it because she has some special guests she'll be attending to after the service. So most of the time, for a pastor's wife with the uniform, we always offer some leniency because of her other role. But for the rest of the people, be part of the team.
Amazing.
So thank you very much. We have had amazing guests here, and we've all had the problems that we are facing, and we are hoping to, take notes, follow the notes that you have taken. And thank you so much for sacrificing your time and coming here. It was nice having you around. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Madam Nancy. Thank you, Minister Morris. I've been your host, Anne Mwende. Catch us on the next show on Worship Leaders Forum. Don't touch that dial.